Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at the Carlson. This is their part number LS703LH-MAROON-BO. This is a left-hand lifting mechanism, the 703 series, in a maroon spring type, which we'll talk more about in a moment, in a black oxide finish. Let's talk about the finishes now. There are two finishes available. There's the common statutory bronze. That's the one that is the most common one. The factory can also do a black oxide finish, as seen here and in the photographs down below this video. The part number for the statutory bronze, if you change the BO in the part number for black oxide to SB for statutory bronze, you'll find it. Okay. Now, there are three different types of lifting mechanisms from Carlson. There's the 702, the 703, and then the 900. There is a link below this video to a document called Mounting Diagrams that will allow you to review quickly those three different types. The 702 is a sidewall mount, whereas the upper portion will always mount to the lid. The bottom portion for a 702 will mount to the sidewall. This is a 703, so it's going to mount to the rear wall. And then the 900 is surface mounted to the back of the unit and then into the lid itself. Okay, so that's a quick demonstration of the three types of this, mounting types of this item. There is an extended description down below this video. Let's go over that now. This is a self-balancing lid closure that is rear mounted that will keep a lid from slamming shut and will allow the lid to stay open in practically any position. Okay, this hardware is used on what would be called like a footlocker. I would know it as a footlocker. The trunk, the piece of furniture that you'll have at the end of a bed, so that it can be lifted up and items can be put in. My teenage son has one still at the end of his bed. I'll call it a footlocker. So if you're building a piece of furniture like that, and you want that lid to open elegantly, this would be a good model for that. And then really what you have to determine is what type you want, the 702, 703, or the 900. 702 or 703 are by far the most common, with the 703 being the one that we sell the most of, the rear wall mounted unit. 900 not so often, probably because it hangs outside of the unit itself. And with the hardware on the exterior of the unit, that might be disadvantageous in a common sort of design. Not sure why, but that would be a reason that it would occur to me that you wouldn't use the 900 as much. Again, the extended description states statutory bronze or black oxide finish. We talked about how you can find that. Features a solid brass enclosure slide. Smooth operation inside of here is what they're saying with that spring. Rivets on the cam to the body, down at the bottom as well. Very high quality spring. Available in different tensions for different lid sizes, and we're going to go over that in a moment. Screws are not included with this. You'll need a number 6 pan head screw, so keep that in mind that they don't include screws at all. This is a maroon spring, which we'll talk about more at length, and is made of steel. Everything is steel except that brass slide enclosure that's in there. Now, this is a left hand. They make these in left hand and right hand. From your perspective on the camera, this is on the left side, and the way that these mounting pads are folded over, the way that the rivets and the rest of the construction are done, indicate it to be a left hand. Now, because this is rear wall mounted, you can install 2 left hand on a cabinet. It doesn't really matter. Maybe for symmetry you would want a left and a right so that it looked balanced when you opened the lid. But LH in the part number stands for left hand. When you are looking at the end of the footlocker and you lift the lid, when you're facing it, the left is on the left, the right is on the right. Okay. Now, there is below this, let's talk about the spring color, there is a calculator that allows you to determine what's called inch pounds. And the inch pounds is the number that's necessary in order to correctly determine the spring color that you need. This client calculated that he needed a maroon spring, which will give a specific sort of rating. So you can use the calculator, but let's go over a detailed definition of the how to calculate the spring. And there's a link below this video to a document called Assembly of 700 Series. So if you'd open that up, it's a 2-page document, and the upper third of it shows the 702 series installation, which we're going to skip over. And scroll down to the middle of the page, on page 1, and you'll see the table of spring color, low limit, and high limit. On the lower right-hand side of that, you'll see where it says, to find inch pounds, multiply half the distance from front to back times the weight of the lid. So what they're saying is, that foot locker, you've got the lid, and let's say it's in the closed position. Measure the depth of that. Divide that in half. If it's 14 inch, the answer is 7. Okay. Multiply half the distance, so half of the depth of the lid, multiplied by the weight. So you've got to be able to weigh the lid. So 7 times 7 in this case. It's a 7-pound lid. 14 divided by 2 multiplied by 7 pounds is 49. And when you look at the chart, 45 through 55 is the range for a maroon spring. And that calculation is not unlike what this client specifically has for determining that the maroon is what he wanted. Okay. Now, installation of this is really simple and straightforward. From either end, there's no hard and fast rule about where you're going to install it, but I would install it in an area where you're relatively close to the hinge, and you have to have a hinge applied to this. A piano hinge would not be uncommon to use for such a thing, or maybe a specialty type cabinet hinge might be perfect for what you're doing. You know, I might go 25% in from one end, 25% in from the other end, you know, something like that. It would depend on the width of the lid, I suppose. I might be looking for symmetry in terms of view is what I'd be looking for, since the dimension over is not going to significantly impact when you're dealing with the first, you know, 40% of the width of the unit from either side. So the bottom of page 1 is called Assembly of 703 Series, and that is where you're going to be able to review the dimensional properties. Simply and straightforward, from the top of the back wall, the rear wall, to the first screw hole, they want you at 1 1/16. Okay? So place bottom bracket so that the top screw hole is 1 1/16 down below the back of the back panel. Fasten with a number 6 screw. Secure the second screw as well. I'd probably hold off on that. I might want to get a screw into the lid as well. Open lids to approximately 90 degrees and place lid support against the underside of the lid with cover bracket flat against the surface. Secure with 2 screws as before. The distance from the back edge of the lid to the first screw hole should be about 3 inch. So top of the rear lid, top of the rear panel to the first screw 1 1/16. Bottom of the lid to the first screw about 3 inch. And once you've accomplished both of those, I mean, the installation instructions clearly state secure it completely. I would be tempted to want to do a test run on this first, but at the same time I don't want to compromise the fact that only half of the required screws are holding the unit on. So double check your measurements, secure everything because the installation instructions clearly state that, and then confirm proper operation, and there you go. And that's how the installation is. It's really simple. Pre-drill the holes before you run the screws in. You don't want to crack anything. If you're taking the time to get a nice piece of hardware like this, I bet the foot locker is equally as nice. Page 2 is a very detailed dimensional drawings of the 702 and 703 series that will show what the unit looks like as it articulates through its opening and closing cycle. Okay, so if you would like to review all of that data quite deeply, page 2 would be for you. Thank you. Finally, there is a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the Carlson products that we sell, but a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. If you have any questions on the Carlson LS703LH-maroon-BO lifting mechanism or any other Carlson product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.